Hey guys, welcome to this week's video. This week I would like to kick off a conversation about the topic of toxic masculinity. Ooh. When the Me Too movement started, my initial kind of reactions to it were feeling kind of a sense of solidarity with women in being on the receiving end as a gay man of a lot of toxic masculinity. And I think what escaped my attention at first, and something that I'm starting to realize more as I've been with the idea of toxic masculinity, is the more complicated relationship I have with toxic masculinity as a man. I'm a gay man, yes, but a man as well. And so I think that there are ways in which I have perpetrated and been complicit in toxic masculinity. And so I want to kind of open up a conversation today about that, what it looks like in the LGBTQ community, what it looks like as gay men, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it and your experiences with it. A few of the things that I think about when I think about toxic masculinity as it pertains to gay men in the LGBTQ community is the idea of internalized homophobia. And it's hard to think about internalized homophobia without thinking of toxic masculinity and the role that it plays in perpetuating internalized homophobia and what we value, that we, value this traditional idea of masculinity and sexuality, which is very straight and heteronormative, and how that perpetuates internalized homophobia. So that's something that we can be aware of as a community. Another thing I thought about was our relationship, particularly, as a gay man, as a therapist to gay men. What is our relationship like with parts of the LGBTQ community that are trans, that are non-binary, that are femme-identified? What's the language that we choose to use around those folks, and what does our support look like for them? I think that there are elements of toxic masculinity that maybe come up for gay men in relating to folks who are not male in the community or who are not cis men in the community. And so it's worth exploring that. It's worth looking at if we have any kind of beliefs, any kind of toxic beliefs about what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine, that may affect other folks in the community and our support for other people in the community. Another thing that I thought about was the topic of bottom shaming in the gay male community, and the value that we have either explicitly or implicitly on, powerful, top, straight acting men. And what is that about in our community? I mean, we certainly can't talk about that without talking about toxic masculinity and the effects that it's had. So I think, this is a real watershed moment in our history where, women have really led the way here along with us. Women have been advocates of the LGBTQ community a lot of the way. And there's this moment in time and this moment in history for us to look societally and personally at what roles have we played in maybe supporting toxic masculinity or perpetuating it, and what does it look like to start to undo some of that? And I think that when I think about these kinds of big social issues, I always kind of come back, probably because I'm a therapist and I can't get out of thinking that way, but I think of how do we relate this back to ourselves and our relationship with ourselves. And when we know ourselves and when we do the work of cultivating our relationship with ourselves and pulling out some of these pieces like toxic masculinity and holding them up to the light and seeing that those don't work for us, when we do that work and we take care of ourselves in that way, then that radiates out into our relationships with other people, and that's healing for us and it's healing for the people around us. So I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are on this. If you've had experiences with toxic masculinity, if there are aspects of the LGBTQ community that you've noticed that maybe I didn't think of, or you want to explore a little more deeply, I'd love to hear from you. So just leave some comments down below, and let's get the conversation going about toxic masculinity, how we start to recognize it, and ultimately how we start to heal that in ourselves and in our community. So again, if you're enjoying these videos, I invite you to subscribe to them. If you click on the bell next to the subscribe button, then it will notify you anytime new videos come out and we can get the next conversation going. I'm really glad you guys joined me today. Take great care.